Space nerds, welcome in for some more news. Instancing is here. The tech preview has landed and we've got some bits to talk about. So I'm going to tell you what instancing is going to look like for Star Citizen, why they're doing it, what it might avoid in terms of problems we've had, and what the first version of this instanced environment is going to be. Actually here, the CTO himself is going to explain it for you. So we're going to go through the whole situation here with this coming up in 4.9 and what it means for you. First of all, let's start off with what CIG was saying about 2 years ago almost, about how they wanted to incorporate instancing into the game. Then we'll go from there.
So how does that look in 1.0? Firstly, we'll have open world content, including missions, group missions, and server-wide events, like we have today, but tailored to end-game players. While the sandbox element of Star Citizen will allow for large-scale battles, we also want to provide challenging instanced content that will take full advantage of not only multi-crew ships, but fleets of ships. And you kind of know how we do that, right? You saw that yesterday. And as you progress through the guilds, you'll be able to accept high-level contracts from government agencies who will offer prototype and military blueprints as rewards. These missions will require the full coordination of multiple players and an assorted fleet of capital, support, and fighter ships.
Sounds kind of like tactical strike groups, right? So there are going to be fleet battles and stuff, and what we're going to get into here is going to be mainly looking at FPS-focused, mission giver-focused instances, stuff that's not really meant to expand, more so it's just meant to like contain and create more narrative context for what you're doing. So let's see what's coming up in 4.9. We've got the patch notes here. Currently, it is in a Evocati patch for tech preview. So this is one of the things that I mentioned on a video I did on my main channel recently. Tech preview is important, and it feels like the kind of thing that needs to be used more for the big features they're releasing so that big features don't get dropped in and create a 4.8 situation. What they're gonna do with 4.9 first says that is taking place using the new Siege of Orison location, but it's only testing of instancing and not indicative of the actual gameplay coming with the update. Things to know for this test. Getting into an elevator should work a lot like player hangars. Select yours and go there. If you're in a party, it should take you to your party's instance instead of your personal one. Instances should be completely isolated after stepping off the elevator. You should have no indication that other instances even exist. There's no loading screens. There's no real obvious show that you're going into an instance. It's just like going to your hangar. This current test won't have limits, but instancing allows for max amounts of players per instance. This is one of my concerns with this whole thing, especially in combination with the idea of fleet battles, but we'll come around to that. Barriers will be a new instancing visual to look out for. Red barrier at an elevator is not your instance. Do not get off at this stop. You will be killed. Red barrier in the corridor means still loading. Give it a minute, it'll let you through once the instance is streamed in. I'm sure we won't have any problems with these. For this test, put it through the ringer with everything you would expect to go wrong in current instance hangars. Test things like dropping and picking up items, leaving and joining with loot in the instance, adding and kicking players out of the party while they are in the instance, weapon fire, death, and more. If possible, try to group up in smaller amounts of 3 to 6 players to maximize instances. They've got a couple known issues here. This is the tech preview though. This is the first time we're seeing it, so it's probably not going to work correctly for the entire time. I've seen some reports that it's been working well, other reports that it got bad over time. I haven't gotten to test it myself. This is all pretty new. I'll probably get into the next tech preview, but this is a fairly monumental moment for Star Citizen. Not because instancing is changing what Star Citizen is meant to be. There's a little bit of talk to be had there, but mainly because this allows them to have a lot more capabilities. When you're talking about things like Rockcracker, the Hathor facilities, the Stormbreaker run, Hyperion, all that kind of stuff can and probably should be instanced. Or if you go to even underground facilities, distribution centers, even city blocks, these things could also be instanced, but the way that they're instanced needs to be, nuanced, let's say. The idea of putting a cap on a space that players can enter in a game like Star Citizen that has very much focused for a long time on being this open environment anybody can travel anywhere in could kind of hurt that vision. Now we've seen what instancing looks like in Star Citizen. We've got different bugs like this, thanks to user RydenX for uploading this. This is not the same kind of instancing that they're going to be doing right now. With the 4.9 version of instancing, it is actually server instancing. It is not the same thing as what our servers were, or our hangars were doing. But I'm not great at explaining it, so I'm just going to let the CTO talk about it here. Listen in.
Is a means to create an environment where designers can create tailored content that's tuned to a specific group size, but it is also protected from outside interference. It's not to say that we don't love PvP. I'm a PvP guy. PvP me, bro. But like most MMOs, a good balance between a dangerous overworld and a protected instances is needed. Right now, we don't have this ability, and this is something we really need in order to give you a sense of progression that is tailored and balanced to a tunable amount of groups, so the difficulty matches the group size. There's a beginning and an end. It doesn't mean that that doesn't fit in our overworld strategy, meaning getting to the instance is dangerous, exiting the instance is dangerous, or can be interfered with others. But at least when you're playing the content, we can actually make something that's curated for one experience. So before anybody says this is only a PvE thing, this technology can also be applied to unlock curated PvP experiences that are as seamless as the PvE ones. So
I mean, contested zones will probably end up being instanced too.
Not about one thing or the other. It's really about unlocking developers' ability to create curated content. So that said, how will it work? Instancing.
It's kind of funny because all the things that they've been doing are basically like contested zones. You have to go in an elevator or get to another location. There's no other way to access it. The bad part about this idea of instancing comes from the open nature of Star Citizen putting walls in front of the natural encounters you might have with other people. But a lot of these natural encounters are already blocked by things like elevators, doors, and stuff like that. So while I totally hear people who are arguing, hey, we should be able to run into random players whenever we get into the sewers because the sewers shouldn't be instanced, there's also a sense of like, if that sewer system has a certain mission that needs to happen at a certain time, it's not really fair for Star Citizen to lock itself out of that content completely. And I, like most of you, are probably worried that rather than using this for that specific kind of content, they just start using instancing as a hammer. And anything that there's a problem with, it gets instanced. And suddenly you're in a game where you're constantly running into these boundaries rather than following people or leading people or meeting people in certain places with no hoops to jump through. But anyways, here's how it works.
Is really an evolution over static to dynamic meshing. We want your instances to be as seamless as your instance hangars, meaning that when you take an elevator, you exit the elevator, you're inside the instance. A gateway opens, you cross that gateway, you're now into your instances. Could be also a quantum jump into an instance that you don't even see. The transition is just like a dynamic mesh transition. And so throughout the universe, we will be able to add these areas that are open or closed instances that allow you to join in either with a party and have a reserved instance for your party, or join in open instances that has a number of slots. And so some of those areas will be completely instanced on different servers. This allows us to leverage the compute power of the entire mesh. The closed ones will be really to drive one piece of content. You enter and exit seamlessly, just like we do with your instance hangars currently.
So the caps are going to be weird. And the thing I think of mostly when it comes to this is Elite Dangerous, random interdiction events where you get pulled out of interdiction into a fleet battle. I would hate if in Star Citizen you're quantum traveling across a system and then you get interdicted by an NPC and that creates some kind of an instance for a fleet battle. Do other people flying through there, can they drop into that instance? If somebody was following you through quantum travel and then you ended up in an instance, could they still follow you? Because one of the things we're supposed to be able to do as bounty hunters is track ships through quantum in some way. So this ends up bringing up a lot of questions, and it does throw the expected future of how content is going to be produced into question. But there's no denying that this is a pretty big moment and a pretty important piece of tech. That is really what we know about it right now. Like I said, I haven't gotten to try it out hands-on myself, so I can't tell you if it's good or not. But this is the first day that it's in, and this is not coming into the game until at least next month. So expect to see a lot more testing on this, a lot more news throughout the next few weeks, I'll try to get you whatever happens, and I appreciate you for checking this out. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.